Good afternoon. Welcome to Senate. Well, good afternoon, Senate Finance, and to our guest. Today is Thursday, March 16th, and we have 5 bills that will be before the committee for consideration today. We're going to start with Senate Bill 665, then Senate Bill 810, 787, 794, and 602. The sponsors will present their bills, and then each of our guests will have 2 minutes for testimony. Please be mindful of the timer and the 2 minutes, as the committee has a voting session immediately after the hearings, and then we have to get back to the floor. So people have been blowing through my 2 o'clock alarm. Please try to be mindful of that, particularly today. You may see members leaving in and out of the room. They have bill hearings in other committees. I mean, no disrespect to you or whatever you might be saying when they get up and leave. They're presenting bills, and so they need to go to the other committees. With that, we're going to start our hearings with Senate Bill 665, Assisted Living Programs, Unlicensed Programs, Resident Abuse and Neglect. Good afternoon. I see a panel coming forward.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Zach Shirley, and I am the Director of the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit in the Office of the Attorney General. With me today are a number of panelists, many of whom have collaborated with us in bringing this bill forward, and you'll hear from each of them. But I want to say that what you're going to hear today in testimony is a testament to the fact that this is a multidisciplinary problem, that it has been identified by a number of different actors or stakeholders in the community. We've come together to try to fix a problem that everyone saw. Since 1979, the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit has been charged with investigating and prosecuting the abuse, neglect, and exploitation of vulnerable adults in Maryland. It is well known that unlicensed assisted living facilities are hotbeds for these types of crimes. By virtue of being unlicensed, these facilities operate beyond the watchful eye of the state's Office of Healthcare Quality, the agency charged with the oversight of assisted living programs around the state. Free from oversight or accountability, the owners of these facilities are free to prey on their elderly and disabled residents, helping themselves to Social Security payments, pensions, life savings, and even food stamps. In exchange, the residents do not receive the care and attention they deserve, and are instead often neglected or worse, abused by callous owners who put profits before people. At present, there are over 1,500 licensed assisted living facilities in Maryland, but there is still a tremendous and growing need for affordable care in this space. For that reason, Health General Section 19-1809, as it exists today, is focused not on punishing unlicensed assisted living facilities, but on bringing unlicensed operations into compliance, essentially getting them licensed so that they can continue to operate. So long as the unlicensed facility applies for a license within 30 days, they are immune from prosecution. But history has shown that some predatory unlicensed assisted living facility operators will never and should never be licensed. Their facilities are deplorable and their services do more harm than good. In those cases, immunity from prosecution and the 30-day grace period that I described earlier operate simply as a get out of jail free card. I'll tell you how it works. You find yourself a home, a residence, you put a few beds in there, and you get some vulnerable adults who need help with the activities of daily living, and you put them in there. Now, at this point, you have a choice. You can either get licensed and operate under the supervision of the state. You have to be up to minimum standards. You have to have certain roles. You have to have care planning, or you cannot. And if you don't, the state doesn't know you exist. And the only people who know you're taking care of those residents are maybe their families. And then you help yourselves to their Social Security payments or their bank accounts or anything else you want to, because again, no one's watching. Now, on occasion, someone will complain or someone will notice something weird in the house next door and they'll report it to OHCQ. And so the Office of Healthcare Quality will come out and they'll say, hey, you're running an unlicensed assisted living facility. You have 30 days to apply for a license. If you're an unscrupulous, unlicensed assisted living facility operator and you want to play the game, you go ahead and you apply for that license within 30 days. And now you're immune from prosecution for the pendency of the licensing period. While OHCQ is reviewing your application, you're free to continue operating. And that includes facilities that are abusing and neglecting their residents. They're free to continue operating for the pendency of the licensing process. But if you're unscrupulous, what you really do is spend that time doing two things: changing ownership. So you put your facility's name in a friend's name, or your facility in the name of a friend or a family member or someone else who's in on your scheme. So that the next time you get caught operating an unlicensed assisted living facility, you just throw up your hands and go, I didn't do this. They did. And now they get 30 days plus the pendency of the licensing period to continue to operate a facility that's harming its patients. This doesn't work. It's a loophole. But Senate Bill 665 will close this loophole by subjecting predatory and abusive unlicensed assisted living facilities to immediate investigation and prosecution by the Office of the Attorney General, while maintaining the existing process for bringing well-run but unlicensed facilities into compliance. It also commands cooperation from unlicensed assisted living operators who at present are under no obligation to allow OHCQ investigators into their facilities to determine the state of affairs therein. That's important because so many of these facilities operate within a private residence that when OHCQ comes to the door and knocks and says, can we come in and see what's going on? Operators don't have to let them. That makes it incredibly difficult for OHCQ to determine what's going on inside and to determine whether or not this is actually an unlicensed facility. What this new bill says is that if you don't cooperate with that initial investigation, we're going to assume that what's going on inside is not good. You're not going to get your 30 days to get a license, and we're going to start investigating you right away. Finally, this bill would provide for injunctive relief in those cases where a facility's continued operation poses a real-time threat to a resident's well-being. These three changes will create a new enforcement landscape for unlicensed assisted living facilities and make the system safer for Maryland's elderly and disabled citizens. It is for these reasons that we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, I'll stand just. Good afternoon, committee members, and thank you, Senator Klossmeyer, for extending this invitation to Maryland Legal Aid to present testimony on this very important bill. My name is Emery Saucedo. I'm a staff attorney at Maryland Legal Aid, and the bulk of my work is in long-term care advocacy. Maryland Legal Aid strongly supports this bill and asks the committee report favorably. In MLA's advocacy, we see the harm that unlicensed ALFs cause. This bill is important to vulnerable, low-income Marylanders living at ALFs, unlicensed ALFs. They're often older and living with disabilities. Unlicensed ALFs prey on their residents and exploit them. The potential for abuse and neglect is so high because there's a great amount of trust that these individuals place in the facilities who they believe will take care of them. With no oversight, this incredible harm often goes unchecked. One such example of a client is Mr. G. Mr. G was admitted to a licensed ALF and then trafficked to an unlicensed ALF owned and operated by the same unscrupulous owners. He signed an admission agreement on certain terms, expecting certain care, like cost and care expectations. Yet in the unlicensed ALF, he experienced neglect and abuse. His medication was mismanaged, he was underfed, and he dealt with inadequate hygiene assistance, all while paying the same rate as the licensed ALF. Ultimately, Mr. G was kicked to the curb, and although the police were called, there was no actions to take because this was a private home. Mr. G was too fearful to report the neglect and abuse that he endured. And if SB 665 is enacted, it will give OHCQ the much needed oversight to investigate situations like this and allow immediate prosecution or injunction as a remedy. Please support this victim-centered approach to this bill. MLA strongly urges a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Chairwoman, and committee members. My name is Jackie Schroeder. I'm the director of the Elder Abuse Awareness Program at HANA, the Abuse and Trauma Agency of the Associated. To date, we've served approximately 900 older victims in Baltimore and other jurisdictions. All elder abuse is hallmarked by a victim's expectation of trust of the person who could turn out to be their abuser. Regardless of the type of abuse, all elder abuse is intentional. I want to briefly tell you about a 72-year-old man named Donald who called for help while living in a filthy, bug-infested facility. He ended up there 8 months earlier from a hospital discharge. The hospital had connected him with a placement agency that found him a room in what they called a licensed care home, but it was not licensed at all. The operator of the dilapidated house left residents alone for most of the day while she went to her job and did not feed the residents breakfast until mid-afternoon. The house operator screamed at and punished Donald for complaining by refusing to feed him for days on end. The condition of the home was dangerous. Exits were blocked with stacks of boxes, electric sockets were burned out, and one day the ceiling above Donald's bed collapsed shortly after he had awakened, leaving plaster and debris on all his furnishings and possessions. We also had concern for the other 2 residents in the home. We contacted Adult Protective Services, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman, and the Office of Healthcare Quality. No one could get into the home because the operator had trained the residents to not open the door when she wasn't home. We arranged with Donald's doctor to meet him at the doctor's office. While there, by request from Donald, we took him to our elder abuse shelter. While in shelter, we were able to help Donald recreate his identity, which he lost while in that facility, and help him move into a senior apartment where today he still resides happily. We urge you to please vote for for Senate Bill 665. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Sarah Mirsky-Mickey. I'm the Deputy Director of the Baltimore Jewish Council, which represents the Associated Jewish Community Federation in Baltimore and all of its agencies, including Hannah from Jackie, who just heard. So first, I want to thank the committee for supporting efforts in the past to help make our seniors safer. A few years ago, as related to Jackie's story, we stopped in Maryland allowing referral agencies to refer to these unlicensed assisted living facilities. So we have that one step of Jackie's story. The other step we don't have is the fact that we can't do anything about these unlicensed facilities and helping the elder abuse that is happening to these older adults. SB 665 attempts to help with this situation, which is why we are in support of it. For these reasons, we ask for a favorable report on SB 665. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and Senators and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Howell-Martz. I'm Deputy Director of the Office of the Attorney General Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. I was an SVU prosecutor for over 25 years before joining this unit and have vast experience in pursuing cases against the most vulnerable. We are urging your support of the Senate Bill 665 to allow us to be able to prosecute these cases. As stated before by Mr. Shirley, a portion of our cases are mandated and we're federally funded to pursue these cases against abuse and neglect. But because of the unlicensed facilities, we are unable to pursue these cases. We've had 2 recent ones, one in the Baltimore City where there was an unlicensed facility where the homeowner literally just moved the residents to another facility. We were able to successfully prosecute eventually this person, but we ran into a lot of difficulties because of that. The other case, which is still pending, was in Baltimore County. And similarly, in that instance, it was the loophole that Mr. Shirley discussed, where she simply just got a friend to apply for a license, thus staying the procedure so we could not get in and pursue the case of abuse and neglect. We have been working hard with the Department of Health and OHCQ to come up with a solution so that we could adequately prosecute these cases. And that is the bill that is before you today. We are asking for these changes to the statute to allow my unit to pursue criminal action for the operation of unlicensed facilities that are perpetrating abuse, neglect, and exploitation of these vulnerable adults in our system, which also still allows good actors, people that are running unbeknownst to unlicensed facilities, to apply and obtain a license, therefore striking a balance between protecting these people, the vulnerable adults, and acknowledging the role that unlicensed facilities play in Maryland. It's for these reasons that we urge for your support. Thank you. Okay. That's it.
Hey, everyone spoke that wanted to speak. All right, Senator Beidle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this bill. I always feel bad when I hear about elderly folks that no one helps and they don't have a voice. But Jackie, you referred to, you take them like with Mr. Donald, you took him somewhere when you took him out of the home. There was some kind of a.
We made an arrangement with his physician to be able to meet him there because he was able to get to his physician's office. And that was the way we could intervene.
But you took him where? To a
And then-
shelter?
And then with his permission, with his decision, really, it was up to him what he wanted to do. We let him know that we had a temporary shelter where he could go. And he decided that he wanted to go there. And so we arranged for him to go and we met him there.
And just to add to that, Hana has an elder abuse safe house. It's one of the few that we have in our state. We actually got state funding several years ago for that, but there are very few and far between elder abuse safe house. And these are generally just one units, and they can't go to a traditional safe house, say for like a DV victim, because they are not ADA accessible for many reasons. And a lot of them are women only, when of course, men and women, well, of course, anyone can be a domestic violence victim, but most of the safe houses for women, and then they don't have the ADA accessibility.
I'd like to work with you during the interim to see how we can fund some additional safe houses. My second question, if I can, Madam Chair, was the referral from a service to an unlicensed facility. What can we do about that if we have services referring?
So several years ago, this committee passed in our state, one of the few states that does not allow referral agencies to refer to unlicensed facilities anymore. So her story was a couple of years old. I think we passed that
Okay.
in 2020.
I thought we passed it. and That's
Yes.
why. So
Yes.
This was before that bill.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions for the panel? Thank you very much for sharing your testimony and experiences with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a few additional witnesses signed up on the bill, so we'll turn to Tammy Bresnahan and Dana Kaufman. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I don't think Dana is here, but I'm Tammy Bresnahan. I'm the Director of Advocacy for AARP Maryland. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Finance Committee. On behalf of almost 900,000 members, we would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of Senate Bill 665. I'm not going to go long. We come in here a lot about the oversight. AARP sits on the Oversight Committee on the Quality of Care in Nursing Homes and Assisted Living. We're currently on a 9 and under bed study that Senator Pidle put in last year. We're very concerned about the state of long-term care in Maryland. And if you all read Maryland Matters this morning, the governor ceased a contract at the Veterans Home in Southern Maryland at Charlotte Hall. And it is very concerning that our older Marylanders are treated like this. I mean, it almost brings tears to my eyes. We thank the Attorney General's office for bringing this bill, and we ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 665. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. I'm sorry, the vice chair has a
I
question.
just have one quick question about Charlotte Hall. Was that licensed or not?
Oh, yes, they were licensed nursing home, and it was under contract with a which I did not know, a South Carolina company.
Okay.
So, I mean, I only know what you read in the paper this morning, but you know, for people to treat older people, abuse them or neglect them, it's just unfathomable.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. So we're now going to turn to our virtual witnesses. We'll start with Stevan Ellis. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Stevan Ellis. I'm the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. The Ombudsman Program is the advocacy program for nursing home and assisted living residents. It is important to consider who resides in an assisted living facility. An assisted living facility is defined as a facility that provides care for 2 or more unrelated people that need assistance with activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, medications. Additionally, many assisted living residents would meet the requirement for a nursing home level of care. For individuals that are Medicaid waiver recipients that reside in an assisted living, they do have a nursing home level of care. All assisted living facilities are required to have a license. However, the current law is not enough of a deterrent because there are unlicensed facility providers. Would you want a member of your family to receive care in an unlicensed nursing home or to receive care from an unlicensed physician? I'm sure your answer would be no. The Ombudsman Program continues to receive information about unlicensed assisted living facilities, and those referrals are made to the Office of Healthcare Quality and other agencies. This bill is incredibly important because it will strengthen the current assisted living law. This bill adds additional safeguards when abuse occurs or if the provider does not cooperate with investigation. In most cases, the unlicensed provider is aware of the requirements for licensure. Ignorance of the law should never be tolerated. An assisted living facility provider must complete all requirements for licensure and keep their license in good standing to care for residents. Residents must not reside in an assisted living home that is unlicensed. Again, would you tolerate a physician or nurse to practice without a license or without continuing education? Assisted living managers will soon have licenses, and this will provide additional safeguards for residents. The law exists to protect the residents and to ensure the quality of life and quality of care of all residents. This bill will provide a deterrent for those that wish to flaunt the law. The residents deserve to have a safe place to live, free of all types of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And this bill will expand the law to cover unlicensed assisted living facilities. I hope that the committee will issue a favorable report for this bill, and thank you so much for considering the bill.
Thank you for your testimony. I see no questions from the committee, so we'll move to our next witness. We're going to hear from Sierra Lee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sierra Lee. I am the Executive Director of the Maryland Board of Long-Term Care Administrators. I would first like to thank Madam Chair and Vice Chair and the Finance Committee for this opportunity to provide testimony for Senate Bill 665. I come to you today to emphasize the board's support of Senate Bill 665. As we know, the aging and vulnerable population continues to increase. Many of those individuals require assistance with housing, supportive healthcare services, and functionality of activities of daily living. Depending on the severity level of the individual's needs, admission into a licensed assisted living program may be an appropriate option. While there are approximately 1,724 licensed assisted living programs in Maryland that meet the state's standards to operate and provide healthcare services to these residents, there are also unlicensed assisted living programs within the state that do not meet the state standards requirements and are not state regulated. This is affecting the overall well-being and safety of the residents. Senate Bill 665 would set a precedent for the state to hold unlicensed assisted living facilities accountable for their operational violations and employ a state statutory standard of operations that enhances the well-being and safety of assisted living residents. We ask that you take this into consideration and vote favorably for this bill. This concludes my testimony. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much for your testimony. There are no questions from the committee, so we wish you a good afternoon, and you are the final witness, so that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 665. Colleagues, we're now going to turn to Senate Bill 810, which is Maryland Priority Out of School Time Program. Senator Washington, and I see your panel coming forward. Good afternoon.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Alonzo Washington here to present on Senate Bill 810. As many of you know, Maryland faces significant shortfalls in providing needed out-of-school programming to our students here in the state. The demand for after-school programs in Maryland surpasses the availability. There are about 390,000 children currently do not have access to after-school programming here in the state. Of that 390,000, there's about 147,000 that are unsupervised after school, as many parents are at work or at other places to take care of their kids. Therefore, these 147,000 students throughout the state are at risk of entering into the school to prison pipeline. To address this issue and to provide more resources to our students, instead of sending them to jail or any other criminal activity, I'm introducing this bill. It's a really important bill, which would rename the Public School Opportunities Enrichment Program to the Maryland Priority Out of School Time Program, and significantly increase the funding from $3 million to $8.5 million. The PSOP, the current program, provides grants to local school systems and nonprofits to offset costs associated with providing out-of-school recreational programs. These programs provide students and families with safe and enriching opportunities during times when schools are closed and students are out of the classroom. Importantly, these programs operate during out-of-school hours, like before and after school, on weekends, and during summer vacations and holiday periods. These programs are provided for. They specifically target periods of vulnerability when children are out of the classroom and have few opportunities, times when they are at risk, again, of entering into the school to prison pipeline. The grants provided by the program give Maryland students the opportunity to participate in a range of enrichment activities and programs. SB 810 increased appropriations of these grants from 3 million to 8.5 million will help provide a greater number of these important programs for our students. We're talking about the current program has about 2,000 students in it right now. If we triple the funding, which this bill is asking for, nearly we'll get about 6,000 students per year to be able to provide services to. We also have a sponsor amendment to move this program into the Children and Youth Division in the Governor's Office to ensure the funding is targeted as targeted as possible. I asked for a free report on this bill, and thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Can I say one last thing? I'm sorry, Madam Chair. That was good. What happened in 2018, FY 2018, this program was actually at 7.5 million, and then it decreased significantly by about 5 million. And so we want to bring it up just above the level before FY 18 to provide these services. Not sure why it was cut, but it was cut significantly during that time. So I wanted to just name that here, that we're not asking for something that wasn't done before in the past. Thank you. Yep.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Ellie Mitchell. I am the director of the Maryland Out of School Time Network, and I'm also sitting here as acting director of Mentor Maryland DC. Despite the fact that young people spend about 80% of their life outside of the school day and school year, we are woefully underfunding and underinvesting in after-school summer mentoring and other types of youth learning opportunities, despite the fact that we know that they actually make the difference in academic achievement and graduation rates and future success beyond high school. So it's a real oversight on our part that this has not gotten a greater amount of attention. I want to thank Senator Washington for Senate Bill 810 because it kind of comes to the rescue of after school in Maryland right now with the LEAP grant being eliminated in this year's proposed budget. I think the move to the Children and Youth Division within the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services, always a mouthful, it makes sense because it allows and will make allows greater access for these grant funds to community-based youth serving programs. I don't want to go into detail, but the management of the grants at MSDE have had barriers to participation for a lot of the community-based programs. So we are happy to see that move. And we also see it as a future forward-looking opportunity for potentially the resurrection of the Governor's Office for Children and the Children's Cabinet, which this grant program should sit in when that returns to its former glory. So we urge a favorable and speedy report for Senate Bill 810.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee. I'm Ron Young with the Office of the Prince George's County Executive, and we are in full support of SB 810. We understand that this increase in funding will provide our county and other counties across the state with vital resources to provide our youth with after-school and enrichment programs that have been decreased in the last few years. We understand that out-of-school time programmings are vital for better education and access for our kids that are often left unsupervised and unequipped with the resource that they need after school. The problem that we face now is the funding and program availability, especially for our low-income students. We understand that one of the key contributing factors to students' access to these programs is their family income. We know that these programs increase the access to low-income students across our state. We also know that these are vital tools to help decrease juvenile criminal activity. Over the last few years, we've seen the rates of juvenile crime increase across our county. And last year, we arrested more juveniles than adults. and as a result, implemented a youth curfew, which was successful in reducing incidents of criminal activity among our minors, but it's only part of the solution. We understand that we need a more comprehensive criminal solution to reduce crime among our minors. That's not just enforcement, but it also includes enrichment and engagement. And so we understand that most of our after-school programs, around 53%, currently have wait lists. These are students that are waiting for resources, waiting for our support, waiting for our help. And this funding will aid drastically their ability to provide success and tools for our students to succeed in the future. And with that, the Office of the Prince George's County Executive fully supports SB 810 and asks for a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll start with Senator Hershey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sponsoring the panels. I just have a question that's noted in the fiscal note. It talks about a new eligibility criteria for the grants, and it says based on this entities in Caroline County, Cecil County, Garrett County, Talbot County, and Washington counties that were eligible previously will not be eligible now. So why is that, and what can we do to fix that?
And thank you, Senator. I can probably answer that. Is that we understand that as we're seeing the increase in the rates of students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, we're looking at those numbers and seeing that targeting these to very specific areas, and so that was the goal, was to have this be a more targeted program, the areas that we're seeing the most impact for free and reduced lunch.
I think, Senator, we can also just find a way that we can make sure those if students are there in those counties, because I saw the same thing and was a little concerned. And so we can find an amendment that would hold them harmless if this does get increased, or even maybe look at amending it differently.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, that's not our point. We don't want to leave any children behind, right?
Okay, I don't see any further questions for the committee. So thank you to the sponsor and your panel. Thank you for your testimony. And colleagues, that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 810. We'll now move to Senate Bill 787, Human Services Benefits Cliff Pilot Program. Senator Hedelman, and you can bring your panel forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you. I apologize. I have a voting session across the way, and if you don't mind that I will run and leave my very capable panel to answer any questions and be happy to follow up if you need it. My name is Shelley Hedelman, and I'm Senator from District 11, and I am very happy to be here today to present Senate Bill 787. Senate Bill 787 creates a pilot program that looks at the problem of the benefits cliff. The benefits cliff occurs when families' income increases enough so that they lose eligibility for public assistance for supports like food and childcare and housing, but it's not enough. They don't have enough money through these public supports to afford to live on their own. So just as they're transitioning to earning more and being more independent from public assistance, we cut off those benefits and people often slide back. What we want to do through this program is create a pilot program and test a new and innovative way to use the earned income tax credit to ensure that no family is worse off than they were before going on public benefits. It uses an adjustment in the EITC, an incentive to enable people who are on economic upward mobility and career advancement to keep going. And it uses data to determine whether and how the policy reduces cost to the state over time. It aims to look at a few limited number of qualifying individuals and their families from across the state who experience that cliff effect, and eliminates any financial incentive to exit. That eliminates any financial incentive to exit public benefits. The enrollees in the program will receive an adjustment through the Maryland Earned Income Tax Credit that will reward work and remove the cliff gap each year of the program without jeopardizing other benefits. Participants will receive a savings bonus of up to $10,000 upon successful completion of the program. And this is very consistent with the stated goals of the 2022 Department of Human Services 2-Gen Commission report that looked very closely at these issues and made some recommendations on how to address the impact of the benefit cliff on families. So I am going to leave it to my very well-equipped panelists here to follow up. So thank you very much and urge a favorable report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee. I am Indira Obasheri, the Public Policy Manager for United Way of Central Maryland, here to testify on Senate Bill 787. United Way has identified 39% of Maryland households as ALICE, asset limited, income constrained, employed. ALICE is a framework that measures the challenges of the growing number of households whose income prohibits their ability to afford basic needs such as food, transportation, childcare, etc. Unfortunately, since the pandemic, we have seen ALICE families regress financially. As we are seeing a gradual decrease in benefits, we must find ways to ease the burden placed on families by creating a benefits cliff pilot program. Kelly and her son Christian came to our Family Stability Program in Dundalk 4 months behind on her bills, facing eviction and car repossession. They struggled to make ends meet, even though Kelly worked an administrative job and a second job with a total income of just under $32,000 a year. She received a raise of $100 annually. However, she lost $360 in food stamps. The Family Stability Program helped her avoid an eviction and car repossession. She's determined to keep her family stable so her son does not have to experience the same hardships when he is older. On the chart in front of you, Maryland and Massachusetts are fairly similar when it comes to poverty, risk, and unemployment rates. A particular note is the Comparative Human Development Index score. A higher score means that a state's residents have a longer life expectancy, higher education levels, and a greater gross domestic profit per capita than residents in a state with a lower score. A similar score here means that the residents in these two states face a similar landscape on their journey to health, happiness, and financial freedom. The chart amplifies a need for Maryland to lead an effort similar to the Massachusetts Benefits Cliff pilot program. The pilot program in Maryland is a tool that will be used to pilot solutions to the benefits cliff. Working collaboratively with other United Ways across the state and Department of Human Services, we will develop a state strategy that will seamlessly be implemented post-pilot program. Just imagine the results if fewer people who are experiencing poverty and becoming ALICE were able to achieve financial stability without benefits from government assistance. Voting in support of this bill will mean enhancing the quality of life for ALICE households. It will also mean increasing equity and giving families a chance to obtain economic mobility that creates generational wealth. We ask for a favorable decision on Senate Bill 787. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee, Finance Committee. I'm Ian Gordon. I'm the Vice President of Community Impact and Engagement at United Way of the National Capital Area, and Prince George's County and Montgomery counties are within our jurisdiction. I'm testifying in favor of SB 787. The benefits cliff leaves many breadwinners having to make the terrible choice between accepting a pay raise and keeping a critical work support, such as childcare assistance. This keeps them from improving their family's long-term financial situation. It also hurts the state's budget and economy because higher wages bring in more tax revenue and generally lead to more discretionary spending, which improves the economy. But if the benefits were gradually phased out as monthly incomes rise, that can give families the ability to adjust. To counteract the benefits cliff, it is essential that there are supports that will make their current benefit programs serve the purpose of helping families achieve adequate living standards. These supports could include case management and financial counseling. Benefits cliffs are a workforce problem for employers paying at and around minimum wage in our state. While it varies by industry, around 1 in 5 workers face benefit cliffs. Industries affected include restaurants and hospitality, retail, healthcare, and more. For example, the financial resources for an individual pursuing the healthcare services career pathway decreases as they go from certified nursing assistant, CNA, to licensed practical nurse, LPN, to registered nurse, RN. Accounting for increases in taxes and loss of public benefits, a single mother with 2 children receiving maximum available public benefits can be financially worse off in the short term and medium term when advancing from the entry-level CNA position. This is a large lifetime net public savings that the individual will lose out on. I'm grateful for this opportunity to testify on this important issue, and I urge you to vote for SB 787.
And good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I think Maryland just won the first round, so congratulations to Prince George's. But so Caitlin McDonough, for the last time this session, I think this is my last time testifying in this committee this year in support of Senate Bill 787, and we represent United Way of Central Maryland. A couple updates since, and I'll thank Senator Heddleman for introducing the bill. Since the bill's come in, and it is modeled after a very similar piece of legislation and a pilot program that has just become active in Massachusetts. We've had a lot of robust conversations with the Department of Human Services and with the Comptroller's Office, and they have both committed to working closely with us in the interim to really hammer out the details on what this pilot program would look like, what benefits we should be tapping into to maybe take a more step down transitional approach, as opposed to this all or nothing approach right now, where if you hit this income limit, you lose everything. It would be more of a step down approach, so we don't have to have those harsh decisions that the previous proponents were describing. We also think that through a little bit more work with the agencies, we can probably get the fiscal note down a little bit. I think there's some case management and other wraparound services included in the pilot that we believe some of our nonprofit partners can provide on behalf of the state to reduce that administrative burden to the state. So we're going to be doing a lot of work on this in the interim, and we'll probably have legislation back next year. But we did want to take the opportunity to start educating the committee about this problem and the solution we're hoping to achieve through the pilot and long term. So hopefully this will be an easy one for you in the next couple of days, but I just wanted to give you an update on what we've been working on. So thank you very much, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions from the committee, so we thank you all for your testimony.
Thank you.
And representing on this bill. I believe that concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 787. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
We'll now turn to Senate Bill 794. Behavioral health programs, residential programs, food service facility requirements. Senator Carrozza, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. May I bring the panel up as well? Mr. Renshaw, and believe I have a representative from the Maryland Department of Health.
It's me.
Okay, great. And we literally came from voting, so I apologize, Madam Chair, for being a couple minutes late. So for the record, Senator Mary Beth Carrozza, representing Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset counties. And Senate Bill 794 is residential programs, food service facility requirements is the topic. And I again want to thank you for allowing me to present this. And this bill as amended, and I believe that you do have the amendments, would allow the Maryland Department of Health to adopt regulation standards that are appropriate to residential treatment programs for substance use disorder that have under 17 beds. In practice, this would allow residential treatment programs for substance use disorder to not have to install elaborate, expensive commercial kitchens like you would see in a large industrial setting. The amendment presented to you would address the concerns of the Maryland Department of Health and the Maryland Association of County Health Officers. For a little bit of background, COMAR 10.15.03 are the regulations that outline the customs and practices surrounding food service facilities. The Maryland Department of Health put these regulations in place as a result of chapters 491, 338, and 339 of the Acts of 2018 and chapters 230, 370, and 371 of the Acts of 2019. The Maryland Department of Health more or less divides board and care homes into two categories: assisted living and residential treatment programs for substance use disorder. Both categories were originally the responsibility of the Maryland Department of Health's Office of Health Care Quality. However, several years ago, the Maryland Department of Health reorganized and, as you will recall, created the Behavioral Health Administration. Residential treatment programs for substance use disorder became the responsibility of the Behavioral Health Administration, and the kitchen exemption failed to be copied over into the new regulations. The cost of a commercial kitchen in a residential home that houses one of these programs can be exorbitant. The existing kitchen would have to be gutted and replaced with commercial kitchen appliances, such as commercial sinks and ventilation hoods. In some instances, the commercial kitchen would require more space than the original residential kitchen, and that space may not be available. Requiring a commercial kitchen could severely disrupt the program, destroying the comfort and supportive atmosphere of a small home that these programs often require, and would be cost prohibitive to many who run these programs. Further, these residential programs are designed to set individuals up for success after they leave, including cooking their own meals, and doing so in a commercial kitchen would be quite different than doing so in a typical residential kitchen that they would be using in the future. This is common sense legislation that would put the residential treatment centers in line and not require them to do the commercial kitchens as right now required in the current regulations. And so ask for a favorable report as amended to SB 794. And I would ask, Madam Chair, if we could hear from the witnesses before questions, if that's okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Renshaw, and I own 2 small board and care homes. The kitchens look very much like what you would see in a typical house. Assisted living is one example type of board and care home, and residential treatment of substance use disorder is another. According to current state regulations, one of these 2 examples is allowed to have a typical residential kitchen, and all other types are required to have an elaborate and expensive commercial kitchen. I know what you're thinking. Assisted living has a more vulnerable elderly population, so it must have the more stringent requirement. Not so. Assisted living is the only type that is currently exempted from commercial kitchen requirements, but it didn't used to be that way. Up until a few years ago, all board and care homes were under the Office of Healthcare Quality, but then MDH reorganized and created the BHA. Residential SUD went under that, and the kitchen exemption failed to be copied over into the new regulations. And that's an inconsistency that needs to be fixed. You see, my 2 homes were perfectly acceptable when they were used for assisted living. However, the same buildings, licensed for the same number of beds, are suddenly not acceptable for residential SUD. As you can imagine, the cost of a commercial kitchen in a small home would be astronomical. It's even worse when considering it as a retrofit. The existing residential kitchen would again need to be gutted and replaced, including appliances, countertops, flooring, plumbing, possibly structural framing, etc. This situation would severely disrupt the treatment program. It would be a waste of resources that could otherwise be applied to other aspects of the program. Furthermore, it could even become cost prohibitive and put the program out of business. At the very least, it would destroy the extra comforting environment of a small home, which is desperately needed by so many people suffering from addiction. As the owner of Palmetto Corner Residential Treatment, I urge you to vote favorable to this bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Marie Grant. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Department of Health. And just wanted to say that with the sponsors' amendments, we are in support of this bill. I think the original language in the bill was a little too broad, I think, and raised some concerns with both our internal experts as well as the Maryland Association of County Health Officers. And so these amendments require us to do regulations that are appropriate to these facilities, but retain some flexibility to oversee food service. So we're in support of the bill with the amendments and appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. I've got Senator Reedy, then Senator Lamb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Renshaw, can you tell me, thank you for being here, and this bill definitely comes from a good place. I'm curious about, because I've been dealing with something separate, an issue dealing with sober living homes. What is the difference between what you do and a sober living home?
So a sober living home is a more long-term stay. It can be, several months, a year, possibly longer. We're at a level above that. When someone goes through, let's say, alcohol detox, they would step down to us and it would be more of a 30-day program, sometimes with extensions.
When you say step down, I always hear that term, that they go from what to you?
So they go from.
Or do they come to you to detox?
No, for alcohol detox, you can actually die from that. So you would
Right.
need a 24/7 nursing facility. We do not have 24/7 nursing. So we're a step down from that, but yet we're a step above the others.
And then step down further to sober living. from you?
Correct. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
Certainly.
Senator Lamb.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and certainly, sympathetic and understand the concerns with this. I guess the question here is to the sponsor. It sounds like this was currently in regs. Had you reached out to the department before to see if they may simply just update their regs to account for some of these facilities?
I'm the cross file on this bill with Delegate Chris Adams, and I know that he worked with the proprietor here. My understanding is that we tried to exhaust, because my first question is always, can something be resolved without legislation? And my understanding is that we tried that route, and that's why we're here. But if someone else has more background on that, but that's always usually my first question. Can it be resolved without legislation?
Right. Okay. So, I mean, and that was why I was asking as well, because it just seems like it's something that, if the department was amenable to, they could simply update the regulations to try to work in some method of accounting for these facilities. It sounds like maybe when Delegate Adams reached out, there wasn't a compromise that could be worked out with the department. I know this probably predates Ms. Grant in the department too.
Right. So as you know, Senator, I'm day four
Yeah.
in this job. So I'm happy to go back and get a little more history and see if I can learn more about the earlier discussions.
Okay. All right. My point being is that if we do this by statute, and granted there are amendments that are not going to come out in this version, it just significantly constrains the department being able to regulate it in this way. Obviously doing it by regs gives some flexibility. So, okay. I'll look forward to the amendments. I don't see it in the packet, but I assume it's going to be coming. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions for the sponsor or this panel? Okay, we thank you for your testimony, and that concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 794.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll now turn to Senate Bill 602, which is Senator Benson, Public Health, Sale of Diet Pills to Minors Prohibition. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, good afternoon. I'm here to present Senate Bill 602, Public Health, Sale of Diet Pills to Minors Prohibition. This bill is for the purpose of protecting our children from the dangers of over-the-counter dietary pill consumption. Our children are at risk of digesting these medicated pills without proper regulation, causing adverse health risk. These health risks are critical, as these dietary pills have a list of substances that, when over consumed, have been linked to severe liver injury and even induced death. We do not want our children to have the option to simply purchase these pills. Currently, these children can go to the nearest pharmacy and purchase these pills without any indication, any identification or limitation. As an educator of over 50 years, I see the harmful effects that medication can have over our precious children's mental and physical health. With the recent discussions of mental health, it is important that we take care of our children in their tender ages, as they can be susceptible to many dangers that the world of medication has to offer. In the United States, there are reports of over 2 million self-poisoning cases, and around 30% are due to over-the-counter drugs. We do not want our children to become addicted, let alone use these supplements without the supervision of a legal guardian or health professional. This legislation prohibits a person from selling, transferring, or otherwise furnishing diet pills to an individual younger than the age of 18 without a prescription. This bill will protect our young people from the dangers of overconsumption of these dietary pills. It will provide an age restriction along with their proper prescription to be able to consume these dietary pills. We do not want our children getting their hands on these supplements without the guidance of a legal adult, guardian, or doctor advising them on the proper usage. The enforcement of this bill would originate from the Office of the Attorney General Consumer Protection Division, and as they would be assist in determining which substances could cause harm and should therefore be restricted. Over-the-counter supplementation should not be the standard, as unregulated access of these pills is becoming an issue across our state and even our nation. This is a process where we all must step in to fight for our children, protect our future, and do our due diligence in keeping them safe. Therefore, I respectfully urge the committee to issue a favorable report on Senate Bill 602. And I will ask you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair and members, to indulge me as I go back over to budget and taxation because we are in voting session. And so I would ask that you all please issue a satisfactory report for Senate Bill 602. So if you will excuse me, I will run out the door and leave it to the young people who are here today, the young people that I fight for every day that I'm down here.
No problem, Senator Benson. And we also do have your virtual panelists. So did you want her to go first? Or the folks that are here? Okay. All right, you can proceed and then we'll take the folks who are here. Good afternoon.
That'll be fine. Whichever way you all decide is fine.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Would you like me to begin on the virtual line?
Yes, you can start.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Bryn Austin, professor at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health. I'm here today to share research supporting Senate Bill 602 and to urge you to report favorably on this important legislation. The U.S. dietary supplements market is enormous and steadily growing, projected to reach nearly $57 billion in annual revenue by 2024. We've all seen these products in pharmacies, grocery stores, and online. But what many people don't know is that supplements are not prescribed for safety or effectiveness by the FDA before they enter the market. Instead, manufacturers are expected to ensure their product safety. However, weight loss supplements have been repeatedly shown to fall far short of these expectations. Rigorous scientific study after study has shown these types of supplements to pose serious health risks. Many have been found to be laced with prescription drugs, banned substances, and other dangerous chemicals. Furthermore, studies have linked weight loss supplements with stroke, liver damage, and even death. The CDC estimates that 23,000 Americans are sent to emergency rooms every year due to supplements, with fully a quarter due to weight loss supplements alone. In a study of FDA data, my research team found that youth using weight loss supplements were 3 times more likely than those using ordinary vitamins to experience severe medical harm, including hospitalization, disability, and even death. Weight loss supplements are not recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics, which strongly cautions against teens using these products for any reason. The fact that retailers across the state sell these types of dangerous supplements to youth, some as young as 12 years old, is unconscionable. How can we continue to let manufacturers of these products and the retailers who profit from them play Russian roulette with the children of Maryland? This legislation offers a common sense solution to protect our children by prohibiting the sale of weight loss supplements to minors, just as we have done with other risky products like tobacco. Thank you for your support for Senate Bill 602.
Thank you for your testimony. Seeing no questions from the committee, we'll go to the in-person panelists. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lamia Ayaz, and I'm a junior at Howard High School in Ellicott City, Maryland, which is actually under the jurisdiction of Senator Lamb. So it's good to see you here today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here with you today in strong support of SB 602, sponsored by Senator Benson. I am 16 years old, and I, alongside my peers, have grown up surrounded by social media. Every single day, starting from the ages of 4 or 5, we are bombarded with images and videos of people's bodies. The vast majority of this content has heavy editing. Jawlines are enhanced, skin is smoothed, faces are made slimmer, certain features are made larger and others smaller. It has become the standard to a point where a 2021 study found that 90% of young women today filter their photos. But it would be ludicrous to suggest that this issue is limited solely to young women. Popular influencers, both male and female, filter and edit their bodies as well. Some with millions of followers promote appetite suppressant candies and diet pills. We have created a culture where body image issues are cultivated for profit. Being exposed to this content once or twice may not be significant, but when you are exposed to this content every single day for multiple hours a day, we find ourselves confronted with a much larger issue. We compare ourselves to the content we consume, and unattainable and unrealistic images become our standards. For this reason, social media has undoubtedly contributed to the rise of body image issues. It's true that people will often choose short-term benefit over long-term safety, and this is especially true for teenagers. And when we see something cunningly marketed as a fix-all solution, an easy way to lose large amounts of weight when nothing else has worked, to fix the features we have been taught to hate, is it really surprising that it can be difficult for vulnerable adolescents to say no? I implore a favorable report on SB 602. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Benjamin Nathan, and I am a 17-year-old from Howard County, Maryland. As a kid who has previously struggled with my body image, I can attest to the feelings of hopelessness and shame these issues invoke. These feelings build up and can lead us to a simple yet life-changing Google search. Information about diet pills. These pills are supposed to solve our problem with one simple capsule. So step 1, get the pills. These are diet pills. I purchased them myself as a minor from my local 7-Eleven. I showed no ID and I bought them over the counter in under 30 seconds. Diet pills like these are everywhere. Convenience stores, gas stations, pharmacies, etc. This gives me and other teens endless opportunities to supply ourselves with as many pills as we want. It is phrases on the packaging like the world's strongest fat burner and increased energy, which instantly catch my eye. As a kid viewing these pills in a store, I see the solution to body image insecurities, a struggle that is so common for teenagers in this country. And while there is a label at the top that says not recommended for use by minors, there is nothing that forces us to follow it. Step 2, take the pills. I could, right now, take one of these pills, consuming toxic chemicals that will disrupt my hormones, growth, and mental health. There was and remains nothing preventing me from attaining or taking these pills that I have in front of you, nor is there anything preventing the more than 1 million other minors in the state of Maryland. Today, I ask you to support the children. Honorable members of the Maryland State Senate, I ask that you vote in favor of Senate Bill 602. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very impressive testimony. Senator Lamb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the two of you for coming forward. Echo the comments of the chair. Very impressive testimony. Very impressive that I think Ms. Ayaz, you're from Howard High School, which is in my district, and I think Mr. Nathan, you're actually a constituent in my district as well. Really appreciate you for being here. Obviously, a very important issue and one that we'll continue to look at. And particularly as a physician, the health and well-being of our residents here in Maryland is of the utmost importance. This is certainly something we want to take very seriously. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions for this panel? Thank you both for your testimony.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. We're going to call up the next panel on this bill. Natasha Mayhew, Craig Muckle, Callie Locklear, John McLucky, Kyle Turk, Devon Percy, Robert Marriott. And they're signed up in opposition to the bill. Good afternoon. As soon as you're ready, you can get started.
All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Natasha Mayu here from Manus County on behalf of the CRN in opposition to Senate Bill 602. I do want to thank Senator Benson for hearing out our concerns. I know she stepped away, but we did make a commitment to her talking this morning to continue to work with her on this issue. We have no concerns with trying to address harmful or adulterated products. In fact, CRN, the Council for Responsible Nutrition, sets mandatory standards for their members, including an online publicly available database of their members' products and their ingredients and dosages. Our biggest concern is the bill is introduced as overly broad. It includes all products, all supplements, and goes from everything from a diet pill to protein powders. And these are items that have legitimate uses. So really, we are concerned with the undue burdens that the bill puts on consumers, retailers, enforcers, and the unintended consequences it has as drafted. And so we'll continue to talk with the sponsor, but urge an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 602. And I'll turn it now to my client, Craig Muckle from CRN, who will discuss more.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Craig Muckle, Senior Director of Communications for the Council for Responsible Nutrition. And as Natasha said, we're here to oppose the bill as currently written. Aside from my role at CRN, I should point out that I also used to work for many years at a local retailer, Safeway. So I have the advantage of knowing both about the supplement industry and how they are sold in retail stores. And we're not here to diminish the concerns that the young people just made, but our concerns really focus on the fact that our members who produce many of the products that are being that would be captured by this bill are well-known, reputable brands producing products that are high quality, appropriate ingredients, nothing illegal, things of that nature. And the things that the young people alluded to are simply not produced by our members. As Natasha also mentioned, we do have an online tool that our members have to put all their products on with their ingredients. So it's readily available to anyone that wants to look at it. And that would demonstrate the commitment that these members have, because they also sign a code of ethics with us to join our organization. So responsible is part of our name, and we stand by the notion of responsibility. The final thing I will say, though, as it relates to putting the products behind shelves in retail stores, that really is a detriment to responsible sales of the products, largely because you lose the opportunity to talk to a pharmacist or another healthcare professional about what kinds of products to select, as well as just the amount of time spent in the store trying to get access to the products and compare labels. Ultimately, a frustrated consumer is going to go to the internet, look up information that may not help them, and ultimately buy a product that's going to be detrimental to them. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. And we're here to oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee, I'm Robert Marriott, Director of Regulatory Affairs for the American Oral Products Association, also speaking on behalf of the members of the Sports and Active Nutrition community that are one of our constituent committees. My colleagues are going to make emphasis on different parts of the potential issues with the bill. We speak in opposition to raise three overarching issues that they may go into further detail on. First, while we appreciate the public health concerns raised by Senator Benson, the excellent testifiers in person, and Dr. Austin, this bill mischaracterizes the products in question in that it fails to distinguish between dietary supplements, a lawful class of goods that are subject to federal facility inspections, composition requirements, and which must report adverse events to the federal regulators, and drug spiked products which are unlawful and which we all hate. If an individual is purchasing something from 7-Eleven, it's either going to be a lawful product or it's already unlawful. If it contains a hormone disrupting toxin, then it's already unlawful under federal law. It's not considered a dietary supplement. Second, from a pragmatic perspective, the fiscal note doesn't really identify any outlay for enforcing this bill, which is a particular concern in the context of internet sales. In addition, the associated cost estimate seems very conservative, given that this will require the state Department of Public Health and in practice, all retailers to evaluate the contents, the label, and the actual ingredients of all products on the market as dietary supplements. Third, and briefly, this doesn't address the underlying problem. Eating disorders, body image issues, these are mental and behavioral health challenges. They don't originate when someone takes one of these products. If we want to address them, then the answer is to address the places and forces where they emerge: the classroom, the locker room, and social media. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Turk. I'm with the Natural Products Association. NPA is the oldest and largest trade group for the natural products industry, representing over 700 diverse member companies. While we understand the legislation's intent and that eating disorders should be taken seriously, supplements are natural products found in everyday foods, and Governors Gavin Newsom and Kathy Hochul have vetoed identical bills. NPA has taken a leadership role in promoting quality standards. For example, True Label is a random testing program designed to create a high level of confidence among consumers that products sold in the marketplace are accurately labeled. Additionally, we are responsible for truth in advertising, which ensures consumers receive accurate information about marketed dietary supplements. The Truth in Advertising program regularly meets with the FDA and FTC to present documentation highlighting advertisers responsible for non-compliant claims on dietary supplements. And since 2010, the program has sent several warning letters to companies on these claims, and nearly 80% of those warning letter recipients have acknowledged their problems and have worked with the NPA to come back into compliance for their advertising practices. The FDA has a robust regulatory framework to understand what dietary supplements are being sold and who is selling them. Dietary supplements are regulated under several different laws, and the FDA and FTC share jurisdiction over supplements. So the law ensures products are made to quality standards while establishing a framework for the marketing of health benefits. Additionally, the FDA created the adverse event reporting system to collect and review AERs on supplements. When a problem exists, the FDA can take a range of actions, including warning the public, issuing import alerts, requesting product recalls, and even seizing products. In 2019 and 2022, we requested that the FDA explore AERs for any cases involving eating disorders and dietary supplements. And thankfully, the FDA has found no connection between eating disorders and the use of dietary supplements. Unfortunately, this would restrict and prohibit access to safe, effective, and well-researched dietary supplements. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Griffith and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Robbie McLucky, and I work for the Consumer Healthcare Products Association, representing the manufacturers of dietary supplements, over-the-counter drugs, and medical devices. I'm testifying today in opposition to Senate Bill 602, and I've submitted my written testimony for the record. While we share the concern that the challenge associated with eating disorders among segments of the American population, we disagree that limiting access to these legitimate OTC products and weight loss supplements is an effective solution to this specific problem. Ultimately, this bill threatens the ability of legitimate consumers to affordably access beneficial supplements that many Maryland residents find useful and even necessary. Most of my testimony has already been covered by my co-panelists, so I just want to recap and hit on 3 points. First, this bill presents the most restrictive dietary supplements proposal in the United States. It goes far beyond what any state has passed, and certainly further than what the federal government deems necessary. Second, the scope of this bill is extremely broad. It would restrict access to a wide range of legitimate health-promoting supplement products not used for weight loss or muscle building. And third, these laws are unenforceable. Bills passed in 2022 by the legislatures in California and New York were ultimately vetoed, as both state governors determined enforcement by the state and compliance by retailers was unattainable. Dietary supplements play a critical role in the wellness regime of millions of Americans. Instituting these restrictions in this bill will have a negative impact on public health. We welcome the opportunity to work with Senator Benson and this committee on this bill, but at this time, we are opposed. Thank you for taking this time to consider our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So listening to your testimony is really interesting. So several of you said that, these products are legal. So my question is, we have legal products that we protect children from, that we keep from minors. Legal alcohol, right? There's an age for alcohol, buying alcohol, tobacco. Okay. And then also it was said that a lot of these products are natural, but there are natural things we limit access to when it comes to minors, like cannabis and stuff like that. So the issue is not, I believe, and let me know what you think, is whether it's legal or natural, but should minors who don't have the ability to process consequences as much as adults, there are protections that the state put in place to keep these legal products from and to keep some of these natural products from. So I'm not sure that, how would you merge that distinction with your testimony and have as many of you comment on that as possible?
Sure. So I think that the operant term to use here isn't natural or legal, it's safe. And the reality is that the products that are legal as dietary supplements are also safe. And I believe under all normal conditions of use, or I need to look at the dosage information on that 7-Eleven powder. I'm very curious about it now.
But you're changing the standard. You're the ones who said legal and natural. So I'm just asking you to defend those words. Don't change it in mid-sentence. So you're the one that said natural and legal. So I'm just asking you, compare what's, the question. Basically, I'm not going to repeat it, but.
Yeah, the products are safe.
Okay.
The idea that the products are unsafe or present a specific hazard of use occurs only by conflating information about unlawful products with lawful products.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else want to take a stab at that, or
I would just
dance
comment
around it?
I would just comment
Yeah.
too, with drugs, there's a pharmacological effect, and at a certain level, you start to see side effects, whether they're the intended use. So with, let's call it Adderall, at 75 milligrams or 50 milligrams, you start to see the benefits of that if you are diagnosed with ADHD. You don't see that with dietary supplements.
Okay. So anyway, I'm not sure how to get the question answered, but anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions for this panel? Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. We do have some virtual witnesses signed up on the bill. So we'll go to Najman Mahuboa. Boba?
Yes,
Sorry?
that's correct. Good afternoon, committee members. I am Najman Mahbouba, a junior at Los Gatos High School. I lead 125 high school students as the executive director of the Policy Initiatives Institute, the only nonprofit promoting policy studies among youth. Through over 10 nationwide campaigns in collaboration with leading think tanks and institutions, endorsements from 10 U.S. representatives, and over 60 student-published policy pieces and 20 academic interviews, I've had the opportunity to reach thousands of youth across the U.S. in legislative enrichment. I choose to be here today to share this with you to demonstrate that I am a young U.S. resident who cares deeply about responsible public policy and the well-being of my community. And recently, in light of the exposure regarding the predatory and deceptive nature of numerous prominent diet pill companies, I am concerned, deeply concerned about the well-being of my fellow peers. I strongly urge you to vote in favor of Senate Bill 602. Dietary supplements sold with false promises of weight loss are readily found across online vendors and brick-and-mortar stores throughout Maryland. But due to the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, which Congress passed in 1994, the FDA is prohibited from prescribing these supplements before they enter the market. This leaves manufacturers to be expected to adhere to a self-assessment honor system, but a myriad of consumer market dietary supplements have been found to contain prescription pharmaceuticals, banned substances, heavy metals, and pesticides. There is a clear conflict of interest here. Additionally, as a young person, I have personally observed the prevalence of this issue within my community. With the growth of social media advertising, a culture that emphasizes appearance, and the exploitation of the natural and emotional fluctuations of puberty, many of my peers have been pushed to experiment with weight loss supplements. Because Senate Bill 602 would ban the sale of over-the-counter diet pills and supplements sold for loss to minors, it gives Maryland lawmakers the opportunity to respond to this threat and protect state youth. I strongly urge you to vote in favor of Senate Bill 602. With your support, we will propel Maryland to become the first state in the country to ban the sale of these toxic products to children. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. There are no questions from the committee, so we're going to go to our next witness, who's Arshia Verma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, members of Maryland State Senate. I'm Arshia Verma, a freshman at the University of Texas at Austin. I grew up in Elk Ridge, Maryland in Howard County, and this bill is deeply important to me because it will protect the health of countless youth in Maryland by prohibiting the sale of over-the-counter diet pills to minors. I implore you to vote in favor of this bill that will take care of your young and impressionable constituents. As an 18-year-old girl, I understand the heavy influence of social media, marketing, and beauty standards on adolescents. I have seen my friends get on social media as early as 6th grade at the age of 11 and quickly get addicted to the shiny images of influencers and models. As our generation grows up with sponsored posts and never-ending advertisements on every corner of the internet, it is becoming harder and harder to escape the beauty ideals that we are expected to meet. It is the hope of looking like the heavily edited models and influencers that may drive youth just like me to seek out these products in hopes of losing weight and fitting in. However, what most young people don't know is that these supplements are often laced with banned pharmaceuticals, heavy metals, pesticides, and other toxic ingredients. With the common sale of these products at trusted pharmacies and local corner stores, it is all too easy to blindly purchase and consume these dietary supplements with no suspicions as to their true ingredients. In an effort to serve in the state youth's best interest, I strongly urge you to vote in support of Bill 602. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. No questions from the committee. I guess she's gone. Okay, so we'll go to Pari Patel. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of Maryland's Finance Committee. My name is Pari Patel, and I am a student here and resident of Hagerstown, Maryland, to share my personal story about the dangers of these over-the-counter diet pills. And I was exposed to these supplements at the age of 14. As a competitive athlete, I turned to over-the-counter diet pills as a way to see immediate results. During this period of struggle, I went to my local grocery store and I saw aisles and aisles of various types of supplements. I decided to try a supplement of every type on the shelves. Unfortunately, there was no one there to speak to me about the dangers of these products, and my friends, my coaches, my teammates even recommended the use of these supplements. Was everyone sucked into this whirlwind of marketing hype and deception? With no prior experience in this realm, the only source of information I had was the internet, which was too severely biased and exaggerated the benefits of supplements greatly. Through deep research, I eventually realized that these supplements might be dangerous, but still, it was hard for me to believe because I so firmly trusted that our government would not let dangerous products like these be sold to me. I was convinced that our government would put a stop to this if these supplements were truly bad. It took me over 4 years to overcome the consequences from these diet pills and completely get over my disordered eating. And to think it only took me about 3 weeks to develop a severe sickness from these supplements. My story is one of millions. But this begs the question, how do we expect teens to understand the negative effects of these drugs? Are we going to let them get sucked into this whirlwind of deception too? Because in each case and scenario, the results are dreadful. It pains me to even think of the possibilities of another teen being deceived by these companies, unknowingly taking risks with their health. These products are often dangerous and can lead to serious health consequences, as was the case with me. Letting these supplements go unregulated means taking away the immense potential in each of the young teens at an early age, setting them up for lifelong pain and difficulty. The consequences of these supplements are not easy to recover from. It is time for our government to take action and ban the sale of dangerous over-the-counter diet pills to youth. We need legislation that will protect them.
Thank you. We would have let you finish your sentence, but we thank you for your testimony. There are no questions from the committee, so have a good afternoon. All right, we're going to hear from Chu Ying. Oh,
yes.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I am Chu Ying Ho, a 16-year-old public health activist. I spearhead research at Harvard Center for Geographic Analysis, examining disparities in access to eating disorder treatment. I also serve as the executive director of Co-Visualize, a global public health research NGO. Recent research has brought to light the detrimental effects of weight loss supplements. As a young person, I am deeply concerned about the impact of these harmful products on my peers. For the safety and well-being of our children, I strongly urge you to vote in favor of Senate Bill 0602. Social media has created crippling beauty standards, pushing young people down a dark path. Influencers advertise harmful weight loss products to their impressionable audience. I've witnessed my peers and friends turn to weight loss supplements in desperation, oblivious to the dire health risks. During a conversation at school, my classmate revealed that he would often go for days without consuming a proper meal, instead relying solely on energy drinks and diet supplements to power through. My classmate suffered because these supplements are so easily accessible in online stores and venues across Maryland. There's little regulation surrounding them due to the 1994 Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act that prohibited the FDA from pre-screening dietary supplements. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Toxicology found 9 banned stimulants in a sample of 17 weight loss and sport supplements. These products have been linked to heart attack, stroke, kidney injury, and even death. However, despite the current dire state of affairs, there's still time to enact change. Senate Bill 0602 would save thousands of children. By voting in favor of this bill, you're protecting your state, children, and future. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. There are no questions from the committee, so that is the final witness we have this afternoon on our bills. And that concludes the hearing on 602. Colleagues, we're going to take a quick break and then come back for a voting session, so stay close.